Howdy, folks. Thanks for tuning in. My name's JB Zelke, and this is the Dusty Vaquero podcast. Punchy, poetic, pure. All right, we're in Turkey, Texas, at the Caprock Cowboy Fandango second annual. We're hanging out in Dry Creek Saddlery and Supply. They were nice enough to let us do the podcast in here, but we've got my buddy Tyler Terry on here with us, and Tyler's cowboyed all over the West and horse trainer, and we're gonna learn a little bit more about what you've been up to. So, how you been?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. This we're recording these when I haven't even put out the first one yet. So, like, I'm figuring it out as we go. But
perfect. So, if you get better ones, you can throw this one in
just
the trash.
Throw the old ones out. Yeah. So, let's start at the very beginning. Where were you born and raised, and what did that look like?
So I was born in Amarillo, Texas, raised in a little town called White Deer, which is about 45 miles northeast of Amarillo. Went to elementary school there, graduated high school, and then I went to Texas Tech for 4+ a year. Took a little victory lap. And, I think my folks were expecting me to come out with a nice blue-collar job after going to college, and I went straight back to riding horses. Mm-hmm. I learned a lot in college from with the ranch horse team at Tech and whatnot. And Chris Wilson taught me a lot, and kind of sparked a little fire. And, and I've literally been I've had a few other odd jobs here and there, but I've pretty much been riding a horse since college. So. Mm-hmm. 20+ years.
And is the horse training and ranching, is that like a family thing to you, or is that something you came into at that time?
No. So it's a family deal. So both of my great granddads were full-time cowboys. Mm-hmm. And it skipped a generation is what I always give my dad a hard time about. My dad's a police officer, and he's been county sheriff for a good while now, and was the city marshal of White Deer before that. But I got the bug really, really bad. So when I was growing up, my great-grandma was still alive. And we have a family ranch on just south of the Canadian River, so north of White Deer, about 25 miles. And we drug our calves, always had horses, the whole 9 yards. But it never really – I always enjoyed it growing up because, what kid doesn't like to ride a horse mm-hmm. and be out and about? But it wasn't until college that I really got a hold of me. I was tied in with some of the guys at Tech that had lived in, actually a lot of them lived in this part of the world. And just got to the point where it's like this is fun. Mm-hmm. We're doing all the other college stuff as well. And just really got to know those guys and kind of played a big influence on, they played a big influence on me going the route I did, taking a blue-collar job and being in the office, which is something I had an opportunity to do, and I packed my bags and went to riding a horse full-time. Mm-hmm. And I've done that in Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, New Mexico, a very, very, very short stint in Colorado, and most recently Wyoming and Montana, mm-hmm. and now back in Texas.
Back to Texas.
Yeah.
And so what were you studying at Tech when you went there? Besides women and booze.
I have a interdisciplinary agriculture degree, so it is a communications teaching cross. Is how I describe it. If I could go back, I would take a completely different route. Mm-hmm. But at that time, I had told my parents I would go to school and I would come out with a degree, and I knew a lot of people going that route, so it was comfortable for me to do. And I probably use it more than I think, by all means. But there's times where like an equine based animal science kind of degree would probably fit my lifestyle now a lot more than an interdisciplinary agriculture degree, because I never went on the block. I could have gone and done teaching, and I guess I could still do that if I ever wanted to, but I don't see me going that route anytime soon. But with that, I still took a lot of animal science classes. Then you mix in the time. The range horse deal was just coming up in tech, and you mix that with the college life. I met lots and lots of ag-based kids from all over the United States, and that probably was one of the reasons I still do what I do today, just because it's my friend circle's diverse by all means, but I'd say 95% are ag-based in some form, and probably that 95%, most of them involve a horse, which is, it's what I'm doing now, and it's probably what I'll do until I can't walk.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're a well-connected guy, too. Like, I feel like everywhere I go, I can ask somebody, you know Tyler Terry? And usually they do. I was just up I was with Brennan Green up in Spearman, and we went and saw Dr. Scott there, the horse vet. And you were one of the first guys he asked about, because he was talking about he can't make it this year. He wanted to come to Turkey. He's like, I know that Tyler Terry guy. I know he'll be there. But it seems like folks all over the West, everywhere. I travel a lot, and I still run into people everywhere that know you.
Well, and it's just, I consider myself like I'm a walking billboard, and it's not what you know, it's who you know. The majority of the jobs I've gotten is because I knew somebody. Right. I knew the right person. I was there at the right time. I'd shaken the right hands at some point in time. Granted, I probably have never really applied for like a job that was based on my degree. So it's just like being here. You and I met in Wyoming. Now we're in Texas. I asked you about a mutual friend from Wyoming. I think Victor's originally from Wyoming, and we're all fixing to meet up in Turkey, Texas, you know, all from different, like there's no reason that we should all be in one place at one time, but here we are, you know, it's just the way the world works.
Yeah. One of the most common questions I'll get DMs from random people on the internet and asking, people always want to know, how do I get into ranching? And you're just kind of talking about building that network and how valuable that is to just know people. But when people ask that question, folks that have no background in it and they want to go ranch or learn how to train a horse or be in that world, what do you think is the best first step for people like that coming from no background?
Man, you have to have the understanding that, like, people talk about gatekeeping and all, and all that kind of stuff. But really and truly, you have to have a mindset that if you really want to get into it, and I mean truly get into it, you have to sacrifice. Whether that on the horse training side of stuff, like if you're determined to be $1 million rider and whatever, the NRCHA, the NCHA, like, you need to understand that you're going to put your time in at the bottom. You're going to clean stalls. You're going to feed. You're going to drive thousands and thousands of miles to shows. You're going to have to ride hundreds, if not thousands, of 2-year-olds. Like, you have to pay your dues. Same thing with ranching. Like, you don't just come in and bam, you're on the top of the ladder. Like, there's lots of ranching jobs that are not romantic. All we ever see is what's in the movies. Right. There's some really good documentaries out there, old and newer ones, that shine a more light on the day-to-day operation of what you actually have to do. But like nobody wants to go build fence. Nobody wants to put in water gaps. And you have to understand that, like, if you're really driven and want to be in the ranching lifestyle, like, just like any job, there's a part of the BS that comes with the job, and you have to do it.
Right.
But like if you have no experience whatsoever, I mean, my suggestion would be is go into a situation humble, and truthful. Like, if you're gonna go apply for a job, tell them, like, hey, I don't know anything about this, but I'm here. I get up on time, and I'm willing to learn. Because that attitude right there will put you ahead of a lot of people out there, and people that have grown up with it in their whole life. It'll put you ahead, and someone will say, like, all right, so maybe they don't know, he or she doesn't know anything about this, but they're showing up, they're eager, and they want to learn. So if we can plant a seed in them and make that grow, well then, I mean, I know people that started at the very, very bottom, and now they're the top dog. They're the CEOs.
Right.
You know, they are the ranch run the ranch on a daily basis.
Right.
I know guys that didn't know anything, and now they own their own place. But there's absolutely no overnight success in ranching.
Right.
It is years and years and years and years and years and years of busting your butt, getting up, breaking ice, putting feed out. You know, when the sun goes down and you're like, man, like, I'm ready to go in the house, but you still have that one colt tied up. It's saying, I've got 30 more minutes to get on that horse, because 30 minutes doesn't seem like a lot of time, but like when you add that up over 6 months, if you just spent 30 minutes on that horse in 6 months, you've got a pretty nice kind of horse. But you have to be able to put that sacrifice out there and say, I'm going to do this, because in 20 years, I want to be that guy up in the big house, and this is how you get there.
Right. Well, and so would you consider yourself a horse trainer? That's your occupation?
No.
What?
No.
What
I
would you
mean,
say?
I guess technically, if the IRS is asking, I mean, that's what I have to put down. Yeah. I mean, yeah, in the big scheme of things, I mean, if you were to ask most people right now, I mean, that would be my occupation. I am not. I've never showed a cutting horse. I showed a little bit in college, and I've sporadically shown him since then, but nothing major. My deal is, I start 2-year-olds for a living right now. I really enjoy it, but it, you know, like if in the very perfect world, like I mean, a camp job is what I've always gone back to. It's always what I love.
Yeah. Well, let's stop right there, because that's a term that's really very specific to Texas, and I had never heard that until I came down here. So, because up in Wyoming we have similar jobs, we just don't call them camp jobs.
Yes, sir.
Up north. So explain what a camp job is.
So like a camp job, so when like in Wyoming, a lot of ranches are headquartered based, which means everybody lives at headquarters unless you have seasonal camps, which most of that time means you can't get to them in the winter. There's no sense in being that high in the winter. So a camp job in the South would be like you have a set of, or not set. You have country that you take care of year round, and that country may be 20 or 30 miles from headquarters. So instead of having you drive back and forth, you actually live out there and you have a house.
Right.
House, set of pens, horse pasture, the whole 9 yards. So that's your camp. So that's where when you wake up in the morning, you don't have to commute 40 or 50 miles round trip to get to where you need to look at your cows and tend to stuff. From what I know and have experienced, the difference in a camp job up here or down here compared to a camp job in the north is, in the north you usually have a set of cows, and those are your responsibility, and you float those around the mountain during the summer.
Right.
Kind of in a rotational grazing deal, but moving them from pasture to pasture. Where down here, for the most part, you have country. So, like, if your country gets burned up during the summer and you can't keep cows there, it's still your responsibility to take care of that country. So you still have to, you may go help everywhere else around the ranch, but that country is still your responsibility as far as getting around, looking at regrowth, checking waters, making sure things are set up. If you're, depending on the size of the ranch, you may be rebuilding the fence yourself if it got burned up, or you may have contractors coming out to do that, coordinating with them. But that country is your responsibility and everything that goes on within that country. Where, up in the northern country, you have that set of cows, and that set of cows may go from the north side of the ranch to the south side all in one growing season.
Right.
But those cows are your responsibility. You might mend a fence here and there to keep them in and stuff, but your main responsibility is the health of that herd.
Right.
But, a camp job is just, to people that don't understand, it's like you have a full-time job at the ranch, but you don't live there.
Right. Yeah, I think I had a couple different gigs that I did for a few years where I was a unit manager for some bigger outfits, and they were not contiguous. They'd have something in this county and something in that county, and so I guess my job title was a unit manager, but it was the same kind of deal. But when I came down to Texas the first time and somebody was telling me that they were a camper, I had no clue what they were talking about. Like, what you're going camping this weekend? Like, I didn't know what that term meant until I came down here. So,
well, and that's how, like, the ranch I worked on in Wyoming, that's how it's set up. Like, you have a cow crew at headquarters, and then, like, there's different, what I would call camps, but units as well. I've worked on places that call them units. There's different units, and those things may be from headquarters. One of those units is, if you have to drive it, it's an hour and a half, 2 hours away. And there's people that live at all those places, and that's their responsibility, is to take care of that unit, or what we would call a camp.
Sure, yeah. And what do you think, you being a horse guy, what are the biggest differences that you saw working in Wyoming and Montana versus down here as far as horsemanship goes? Because that's always a topic that people bring up. That's a
touchy topic.
Yes.
So my experience would be that in Wyoming and Montana, there are select people that, like, crave to ride a really good horse. Not an average, I'm talking about a good horse. But they're far and few in between. It seems the view I got was like, you got on your horse, and if you go get your job done, you're in good shape. Like, not a lot of finesse necessarily up north, just overall. There's definitely people up there that train really well, and their horses are some of the nicest you'll ever see. But it seems like down here, and a lot of that probably has to do with the availability of well-bred horses, but there's just the fraternity mindset. I feel like horses are pushed a little earlier down here than they are up there, especially if you look at the draft cross. Like, a lot of people, I started lots of them up there, and they don't really care if they're 4 or 5 years old when you start them. Where, like, down here, and you can argue it all you want. November of their yearling year, I think their groundwork needs to be started, and you don't need to be camping on them. You don't need to be, riding their butts in the dirt. But, like, from their yearling year, the month of November, from their yearling year coming into their 2-year-old to their 3-year-old year, beginning of 3-year-old, their mind is like a sponge. You can train a horse in a good way and in the worst way in those 12 to 14 months, because they just want it all. They want to take it and be good for you. And also other side of that is, like, they're not 1,400 pounds at that point in time.
Right.
So, like, if they want to be a jerk, want to be bronky or try to run off, like, you can normally kind of manhandle them if you have to for a minute and keep yourself out of a bind. Where if you have a 5-year-old, 1,300-pound horse run off, you're just kind of there.
Yeah.
Until he decides like we're not gonna go. Okay, I'm over this. Like now you can teach me. You're
Right.
just kind of a passenger. But I mean, like the NCHA fraternities, the NRCHA fraternities, that mindset of like at 3 years old we want these suckers broke. I think that pushes a lot of people. I think a lot of people come to the South before that mentality, because there's more horse flesh down here, and the fact that like, man, you can go on every street corner from Weatherford to Aubrey, where we live now, DeKalb. I mean, almost every corner of Texas, you could holler out, "I need a colt starter," and 15 people would show up.
Right.
Where that's not necessarily the case in Wyoming and Montana.
Right. Yeah.
I was really worried about that when we moved to Montana because I didn't know anybody up there. And being from Texas, there can be a little bit of a bad sting to that.
Yeah.
And I was like, this might be kind of slow going. But there hadn't been a guy riding young horses in that part of the world where we lived in a good while, apparently. And now I had to start anything from a 5 and 6 year old down to a 2-year-old, from draft crosses to full thoroughbreds. But I was the only guy right there locally doing it, so I stayed extremely busy. Where down here, everybody does it. There'll be 25 guys here, if not more, tonight. That's
Right.
what they do for a living.
Yeah.
And if they don't do that, they own a stud. And it's not just some run-of-the-mill stud. It's an owned son of a $500,000 money earner, and they're raising colts, and then they're sending them off to guys like me to get started.
Right.
So I do think there is a difference in the horsemanship mentality. But then again, like there's a lot of horses in Texas that won't hold up to the work
Yeah.
up there. Like, and I didn't realize that until I lived there. But
Sure.
you can not go very far in Wyoming and Montana and climb so much in elevation.
That's very true.
And it's just different. Like a horse down here that can trot 20 or 30 miles in a day is not uncommon to find, especially on the bigger places. But a horse that can climb 3,000 or 4,000 feet in elevation and then get on top and still get around and push cows, that's a different kind of horse.
Right.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, very different. The performance horse industry, I had just not seen a lot of it personally. Not that there aren't performance horse people up north, but until I came to Texas, I never really saw it much up there. It seemed like everybody just kind of had stuff they could go get around on. Some guys had really nice horses, but I guess there wasn't an aim other than making your own job easier.
You bet.
Like there wasn't a goal or a show or anything that you're going to. Either you just kind of got by on what you felt like was worth dealing with. I feel
Yes,
like
sir.
is what a lot of people do up there.
Well, and I mean, you're 100% right. And it's on the fact that, like, I feel like up in the mountain country, like, a big draw to live up there is to be in the mountains. And there's a lot of country up there that you cannot take a side-by-side on. And there's
No.
only one way in and out, and that's horseback. And
Absolutely.
that's a big, I mean, for me, like, selling horses, that's a huge draw. Like, if you can get a big, pretty, stout horse that's gentle,
Yep.
like, there'll always be a market for them up north.
Yeah.
Because people want to go up, I mean, you talk about trail riding in Texas and it's kind of frowned upon, but up there, a trail ride might be 100 miles.
Yeah.
And you might not see another person than the ones you came with.
Right.
And you're camping and you've got a pack string of 5 or 6 horses and you got a wall tent and you got a stove pack. Like, completely self-sufficient.
Right.
Where a horse's life down here, not everybody, by all means, but a good majority of horses in Texas, Oklahoma, and the South, I mean, their biggest trip is to the weekend show. And then they come home and they're back in their stall.
Right.
And then they might get turned out on 50 or 60 acres.
Yeah.
But that's their life, where a horse up there by 5 or 6 years old, they may have literally seen 1,000 miles under their feet with a rider on them or a pack.
Yeah.
And it's just the environment. It's a different mindset, but the environment plays a big factor of that.
Sure.
Like, the performance horse world here is huge. We see it you can't open social media and not see something on Performance Horse. Right now, the Celebration of the Champions, I think it's called, the World's Greatest Horseman's going on. Been going on for 14 days.
Right.
And it's just like 14 days. And I know people that show in it. I love to watch the finals. I've actually never seen it in person. But, I mean, it's a $1 billion, I don't know the exact number, but like multi-billion dollar
Yeah, there's a lot of money
industry in it, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like there's some people in the world that to get on the back of a good horse that's not going to buck them off, and they can go up the river 25 miles to fish and then come home safe. They're perfectly okay with that, whether that horse costs $500 or $50,000. As long as it gets the job done, that's what matters.
That's what matters, yeah. So what does somebody that's starting colts for a living, what's like an average day, like for if we're explaining this to people that have never been around this before, what does a day look like for somebody that's a colt starter, start to finish? What's the schedule look like?
Man, so it differs so much. But like my day is based around if I have barn help or not, which is hard to keep around. But if I have help to clean stalls, my day is to get up. I normally get up around 4:30 to 5. I have a gym routine I try to run through in the morning, and then I try to be riding by like 6:30 to 7. And my deal is to I feed everybody before the gym that's inside the barn, anybody in a stall, and which is mainly my 2-year-olds. And then when I come back, like they've already ate, I feed everybody outside of that time, personal horses and older horses that don't necessarily need to be handled every single day. And then I pull 2-year-olds out. I pull 4 out is how I do it. I've got 12 in the barn, so I do it in sets of 3. Pull 4 out, saddle all 4, tie them up where they need to be, depending on where they are in the process. Horses, like if I'm just now starting them, they just came in. Of course, they're not getting saddled. We're just taking them to the round pen, putting the groundwork on them. And I try to have, if I can be horseback by 6:30 or 7, I try to have 5 to 7 rode, by 1 or 2. Depending on the weather and whatnot. I luckily have a covered pen, but it is in part of the Texas that gets hot.
Way hot. Because you're over in kind of East Texas now.
I'm in the most northeast part of Texas you can. So 20 minutes from Oklahoma, 40 minutes from Arkansas, and an hour from Louisiana.
Yeah, hot.
It gets hot. But I try to ride 5 or 6 before I break for lunch. Usually eat a snack or something in the barn. I've learned through the years that if I go in the house, my 15 to 20 minute lunch turns into an hour to hour and 15 minutes. And if you're trying to ride 10 to 12 a day, it just doesn't work. Then I come back out, and then I will ride the rest of my customer horses. And then how far I get through them decides on if I ride. Like I've got 1 or 2 personal colts that we raised, or if I'm going to get on, if we're going to a rodeo or something, get on maybe one of my older horses and tune on them a little bit, stuff like that. And also a factor for my day is the boys. If they're at the house that weekend, I try to, they ride extremely well for their age. And they help me a lot. It's taken a couple of years for them to figure out how to run the flag. If I'm on a first or second ride colt and they're in the middle of the round pen, it's gotten to where it's not so funny to see if Dad can fall off. If we can get Dad to fall off. But like they'll climb in there. I have a ride or 2 on a colt and need someone to really kind of push them around. They'll jump in there and I can give them a flag, and then they do a really good job. They really are good about getting on their older broker horses and like me coming out in the big pen for the first ride, and they understand. Like we have a code, red means stop. I mean, it's just like traffic light. Green means go. So if I'm riding a colt around and he's getting in a bind and he's wanting to blow to a horse, and I tell him, hey, red, and they'll just stop what they're doing and let that horse, I can kind of gather that horse up, get him through that situation, and then we can start going. Or if like, if they get to talking or whatnot, and I got a colt that's balling up underneath me and we need to get motion in his feet, like, hey, green, and that means you can keep along with your conversation you're having, but let's go. Let's get our feet moving.
Right.
They do that inside the pen. They help me outside the pen as well in the first couple of rides outside. And it makes a big difference. Like having that other horse there horses are herd animals, so having another one of their species with you is a calming effect to an extent. It can keep you out of a lot of trouble.
Right.
And I'm fortunate that even at 8 and 9, like they savvy when to ride forward and when to stop. And they've been, they've cowboyed in Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, Wyoming, Montana now. So for 8 and 9, they've seen a pretty good chunk.
They've seen some country.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think also, this is just my perspective from an outsider looking in, but those really high level guys in the performance horse world that are training, and I don't say this in a condescending way, but those guys are psychopaths. They're some of the hardest working dudes. It seems like, I've never worked in that industry, but I talk to people, and it's, before sun comes up, you're out there with your horses. You're out there well after dark a lot of times working these horses. You got people working for you. It's very high stress. Like, I don't know if that really high level is as romantic as people make it seem. Like, it seems like a pretty high stress, high reward type of industry to be in, and big money flying around too.
100%. Like, I believe it was Clinton Anderson that said it. I could be wrong on that, but if you want to take on the horse world and be a name that is remembered, you have to let it consume you.
Yes.
And that's 100%, because I tell folks a lot of times horses are just like kiddos. A kid could walk in here right now and we could say, hey, you need to stay over there. And as long as you come back to that ever so often, like, hey, over there. Here in a minute, that's there. Like, he's not going to come past the point you've asked him to, for the most part.
Right.
But if you're like, hey, you don't need to be over here right now, and then you get to doing something, we're podcasting, and they're over there, and they're like, hey, I told you to get over there. And then an hour goes by, and then they're back over here. Well, tomorrow, there's not going to be any structure whatsoever. Where if you're on it right there for the first 15 or 20 minutes they're in the room with you, well, tomorrow it's that, hey, and it's there.
Right.
It's just behavior, it's remembering, it's muscle memory. Same thing with a colt. Like, if you take and put 5 good rides on a colt, in my opinion, this is different all over the world, but if you put 5 good rides and then you let them set for 30 days, you have to backtrack. You've regressed. And you have to go touch base back on what you started with.
Right.
Oh, hey, no, remember, this is how we do it. This is how we do it. But if you take that colt, and it can take 5 minutes or an hour, time frame, horses don't wear watches. So you've got to know, like, we're at that point, let's get off of them. And so, and I've seen people, and I've done it, where, like, you can get on a colt and 3 or 4 minutes into the ride, you ask them to stop and they just drag their butt. Get off of them.
Right.
Unsaddle them. Go wash them, put them in the stall, do something. Let them know that's good. And then if I need to get them back out here in 3 or 4 hours, let's do it. And let's see where we're at. But that consistency of, I guess the consistency of being disciplined with them is what grows their performance and their ability. And there's horses out there that have natural talent, but you still have to direct that talent. We see that in humans all day. You have the kid that doesn't need to work a day in his life to be good at sports, but he doesn't have the ambition to be good. And you have the kid that had to bust his butt day in and day out. And that kid is always going to end up in a better spot
Absolutely.
than the other, because hard work will always outdo and no ambition with natural talent. And what you're saying about the horse world, about it being not so romantic, 100%. Because if you're a $1 million rider, I couldn't even start to tell you the amount of hours that equal days, that equal months, that equals years you spent in the saddle to be there. And the other side of that deal is it's ever progressing. Like you don't get to the top and like, I'm here.
Yeah.
I don't need to learn anything else. I don't need to go anywhere else. Like, I'm here and I will always be here. There is always somebody knocking on the door.
Right.
And a lot of times I feel you'd want this to happen. A sense of hybrid vigor, even though they're not your offspring, but like like assistant trainers go out on their own.
Yeah.
And you've trained them up so good that they're the ones knocking on your door. Yeah. Because that's just, okay, that program. And I mean, reining, cutting, cow horse, roping, any of it, that program produces this kind of person. And now that person is climbing up, knocking on their mentor's door like, hey, I'm coming to the top for you. Yeah. But, that assistant trainer went through, like we talked about earlier, started out cleaning stalls and went through all the BS to get to where he could ride well enough to go out on his own. And now he's knocking on the door of his mentor saying, hey, I'm coming for you. Yeah. But there are hours and hours and hours. And I mean, we see it all the time. Like, I mean, as much as you hate it, like that puts a lot of pressure on marriages, on parent-kid relations. Like, I mean, a lot. But there's people that find a way through it, and they get to the top, and they might be at the top for 10 or 15 years. But like, they paid their dues to get there. And then, just like you said, it is a high stress, high reward. Because when you really think about it, dealing with, I mean, to me, it's stressful dealing with humans in general. And then you mix another animal on top of that has emotions and a mind of their own, and then you take those two and blend them together. So you've got one mind you're trying to train on the horse. Then you've got the owner that has their mindset of how the horse should be trained, but they brought you the horse. And then you mix in the fact that at some point in time, you're going to have to tell that owner this horse is going to make it or this horse isn't. Right. And then you have a whole nother set of emotions show up. Right. So high stress, high reward is a great way to put it. Yeah. And there's a lot of times hundreds of thousands of dollars tied up into all of that, Like, yeah. I mean, I know what it costs to a penny, like to feed one, to keep them up in farrier work, teeth done, keep them rode, keep them in a barn. I mean, I've got a budget that's broke down literally to the penny, because that's how I run my overhead, looking at that and what feed costs, and can you go over here? And it is used to, you had a horse to do a job, you had a horse for transportation, everyone had a horse, but you needed that horse back in the day. And now it is I don't know. I mean, it's a rich man's hobby. Yeah. Like the cutting, the cow horse, and I'm not hating on that by any means. If it wasn't that way, I wouldn't have a job. Yeah. It just takes money to play that game. It does. It takes money to play that game. And you have to spend money to make it. If you're going to sell a $500,000 to $1 million 2-year-old prospect, which 10 years ago I'd been like, that won't ever happen. But it happens literally every year at the NCHA sale or the NRCHA sale somewhere. Really and truly, I mean, Steve Friskett's sale in Clovis, the Clovis horse sale, he had a high point ever the other day and sold a $100,000 gelding. Like, they stopped the sale. They announced it. Like, I mean, that's a big deal. Right. And he was a super, super nice horse. And then you turn around and look at the NCHA fraternity sale, and like a friend of mine, Caleb Rice, phenomenal horse trainer. phenomenal person, but like he sells one for $270,000, you know. But all the fees they paid, they had to buy that horse.
Yeah.
You know, I believe he does that with his boss, and like they had to buy that horse, they had to train that horse, they had to put all that time in, 11 to 12 months they put into that horse for it to get it there. You know, so like.
And how many others did he do that with that didn't sell for that much money?
You know, I think I talked to him the other day, and I may be quoting him wrong, but I think this is like the third or fourth year they've done it, and they finally are seeing a product.
Yeah.
You know, because not every horse makes it. And that's a hard thing for some owners to accept. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are owners out there that are like, okay, like, let's find another one. Yeah. Let's get what we can out of this horse, and let's find one that might make it. You know, it's going to give us a better shot to be our unicorn, as people like to say. Mm-hmm. But just like high risk, high reward. You know, if you want to win big in Vegas, you got to bet big.
That's right.
You know,
yeah.
I've never known anyone to come home with $100,000 in their pocket from Vegas playing $5 blackjack.
No way. Yeah,
like you gotta bet big to win big.
Yeah. So in this horse training world, you're always learning. But if you could look back and you had like one mentor, was there one person that you really feel like kind of shaped your idea of horsemanship, or maybe there's a couple of them that you really look up to or have worked with in the past that helped you?
So, I mean, yeah, for sure. Like, so I didn't take the normal route to what I do now. Like, normally, like we're talking about, you go work for a trainer and you move up the ranks. I went to like starting ranch colts, worked on a ranch, started a bunch of colts there. Then I'd go off on my own. Then I'd find another ranch job and bounce back and forth like that for a lot. But like, so Chris Wilson at Tech, he taught me a bunch. There were things like, I didn't even know what a lead was. I mean, I was just like the old days. You got on your horse, you went and rounded up the cattle, you drug the calves, you got off your horse. Right. So he taught me a whole bunch. By all means, like he was my first like introduction to like, there's more to it than just get on them and kick them. Mm-hmm. So Tech was kind of like, he played a big part in it. And he may not have understood at that time, but like he's kind of started a fire in me, wanted me to learn more. And I've read books. I've watched Ray Hunt's colt starting DVDs. There's like 8.5 hours on it, and I've had like 4 or 5 of them because I've worn them out. But in the big scheme of things, like I wish I could say this person or this person, like, you know, some big trainer or some big guy. But really and truly, like my friends that have like really taken a hold and done things really well, in my opinion, for themselves as far as training horses. All the Burleson boys, Zach, Dusty, and True, like I bounce ideas off them 24/7, and they're man, like I can't hold a candlestick to what they can do.
And those are the guys at the sixes, right? Or some of them are at the sixes?
Well, Zach is the oldest brother, and Zach was at the Bale. He was assistant manager at the Bale under Chris Wilson for a while, and he's back home, and he actually lives in Silverton. Dusty is he's the big boss at Guthrie now. So, and True worked for the Sixes for a while, and now he takes care of a family place in, I'd say Sonora. I'm pretty sure that's where it's actually located. I think he lives in Rock Springs. So they've all three showed at Tech. We're all very, very, very accomplished. At some point in time, they've all been like, they're just good folks in my opinion. They're salt of the earth. Some of my best friends. And but like Dusty used to take care of Dixon Creek, which was only 20 minutes from where I lived at one time. So like, I'm sure there's points in time where I'd call him up. He wanted to be like, do not come over here. And I'm like, hey, I'm at your front door. You want to ride some horses? You know, like, and just ask ideas. I broke my leg in 21. Yeah. No, the end of 20. And I had a pile of horses with me at the house I was riding for folks. And Dusty and then Kai Houston, which is his cousin, which I've learned a lot from, they called me up. They were both at Dixon Creek, and they had talked to Taylor. And they called me up and said, hey, let me come get these horses. You know, like, you've got a broke leg. You can't do anything. Like, let us ride them. We've got it worked out. You know, and I was completely blessed to have people like that in my life. But then I got some of those horses back, and I'm just like they actually rode them. Like, they wasn't like they just kicked them out. Like, they were riding them, because there were some buttons on them I couldn't figure out at first. I'm like, what? Oh, well, this, and this, and this is, you know, when you're talking to folks like that, and you ask them a question and you're serious about it, like, hey, so I can't get this done. And they're like, oh, man, like, so lope a circle, get on the counter arc, and then just push your shoulder over. When you ask for that lead change, just swap your feet. Don't jam them up, just swap your feet. And they're just real nonchalant about it. You know those folks have done it a million times. Right. And sometimes you just want to wring their neck for it. And it's just like, because you're like, this is really bothering me. And they're just like, oh, man, like, just do this.
Yeah,
no big
piece
deal.
of cake.
It's like, oh, can you show me? And they're like, yeah. And they're like,
it's like nothing,
dude, like, okay, now I see it. You know, I was like, I can't be that nonchalant about it. But they're like, well, I mean, they're like, it's just riding a horse. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
Like, if you can get over your mental game and you overthinking it, you're just riding a horse. Mm-hmm. And, like, your body, how you lean one way, lean the other way, like, literally they can feel a fly land on their back. Mm-hmm. So, like, if we weigh 150, 200 pounds and you shift your weight, they feel it.
Yeah.
And they're like, man, it's just finding that center and pushing them around. And okay, I'm going to go work on this. I'm going to go home, and I'll come back in a week, and then y'all can tell me I've screwed it up more, you know, right. Type deal.
Well, we're here in Turkey at this deal, and it's all, you know, this deal is all kind of centered around Western art. And when people think about art, they think about music and painting and drawing and writing and things like that. But in my mind, I think training horses is just as much an art form as any of those are. And maybe it's, I don't know if it's as easy for the public to necessarily look at and say, wow, what a piece of art that is. But yeah, I think the way I look at horse trainers and people that spend their life doing it, they're just as much artists and craftsmen as any of the people that are here hanging stuff on a wall or doing whatever. And I think that's a pretty cool thing. And maybe, I don't know if everybody sees it that way, but that's the way I've always looked at it.
I mean, yeah, there are people, there are people out there that, like, I mean, and it comes from all facets of life. Like, you got people that can teach a horse to lay down in front of a cow, the NCHA cutting horse. You got guys that can, in the NRCHA, that are teaching them to do 3 events, and all at peak level. It's not like we're so good here and we can kind of cut a cow, but we can really run down the fence. It's like we can haul butt down the fence. We can drop our hand and cut a cow, and then we can sit here and we can lope the prettiest circles and lead chain and drag our butt like a wormy dog, and we can all do it up here, you know? And then you turn around and I'm not in this world by any means, but like when you really break it down and look at like the dressage world and the hunter jumper world, and you have them, they can get 17-hand horses to float around like, you know, like they're on a cloud. Yeah. So I think there's a lot to do about it. I mean, I agree with you. Like, there's an art to it. And just like artists, I mean, we've got David Bond, Scott Slusher, you got Click Thompson, you got yourself, some of the greatest Western artists of our time here. And all of them will tell you that they're not there. Mm-hmm. They're not at peak level. Like, they're chasing it. And I think that's what like in people in the horse industry's mind, like the big time trainers, like they're never done. They've never reached where they want to be, and I don't really think anyone ever will, because if you've got that mindset, well, then it's time for you to retire.
Right.
Like it's time for you to be done.
Yeah, I would say that's essential for greatness.
100%.
If you want to come anywhere close to greatness, you have to have that mentality that you will never get there, at least in your own mind.
If you don't wake up in the morning wanting to chase it, you'll never get there. Somebody once told me, if you don't get up, you'll never get there. And that for a long time, Cowboys supposed to be early risers, big deal. That on the wagon, you're up early and whatnot. But there was a stretch of my life I 8:30, 9 o'clock was perfectly okay to get up out of bed and start your day. But I don't know very many successful people that start their day after 5:30 in the morning. Like they get up and they go and they go and they go. And you look at it from the outside in, and it doesn't matter if it's a CEO of a huge technology company, a cow boss on a big ranch, cow boss on a little ranch, a business owner in town, a restaurant owner, doesn't matter. But those kind of people that when you're looking at, you're going, man, they made it. Man, you hear it all the time. Must be nice.
Yeah.
But what we don't see is they were up at 4.
Yeah.
They went to the gym. They read their Bible. They've journaled. They've done all that before we even thought about getting up at that point in time. And then they're busting their butt at whatever they're going to do. And it's just those kind of people. And I mean, we need all different kinds of people to make the world go around. But really, truly successful people never make it to the top because they're hustling every day to be better.
Right.
And if you're a little better than you were yesterday, well, then you can't say, well, I'm there because I can get a little better tomorrow. And I can get a little better tomorrow. Oh, excuse me. And I just feel those people never lose the hustle. I hope one day that my kids will be able to say that about me. There are days where you don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to go get on a 2-year-old, whether it's because it's cold or you got bucked off the day before, or you just had a bad day. But like I've been told time and time again, if you don't ever get up, you won't get there. And a podcast I was listening to the other day with, if you get up at 4, go to bed at 8:30. Oh Lord, can't go to bed at 8:30. Right. Oh heck no. If you've been running for 16 hours, you can go to bed at 8:30.
Yep.
Get up early. I mean, my most productive hours are between 4 and 11:30. I can do more in those hours running on a decent breakfast and 3 cups of coffee. And run hot, probably a little too hot at sometimes. but if you're getting up and going, and you're chasing it, that you'll, like you said, greatness, you'll never get there. But it's not the fact that you don't get there, it's the fact that everything you accomplish on the way of trying to get there is what makes you great.
Yeah.
But it's a never-ending battle, never-ending. And I don't care if you're in New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Connecticut, California, Montana. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what facet of life you're in. Whether you're a lawyer or you're selling peanuts on the corner. If you want to be the best peanut salesman in the world, you're going to get to that corner 20 minutes before everybody else.
Right.
And you're going to be talking to people, and you're going to shake hands. And one of these days, someone's going to come by and walk by 40 different peanut booths to come to you because, I like that guy.
Yeah.
I like that girl. When we talked, we had a good conversation, and I'm going to go spend my money over there with them. This deal's 100% shaking hands, getting to know people. Like, if you put, I mean, Scott's one of my best friends. You put 40 different pictures out there, and his is the worst, which is highly unlikely.
Right.
I would buy Scott's.
Yeah.
Because he's my buddy, and because supporting him rather than buy from a big highfalutin company.
Yeah.
I've never seen him take a bad picture.
Yeah.
But like, it's that mindset. Like, hey, like, he's put the effort in, and every day he wakes up chasing to be a little bit better than he was yesterday, and I want to support that.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we'll pivot a little bit here. What's the worst horse wreck that you ever got yourself into?
Ooh, horse wreck. So the scariest one that involves a horse would be, I was living on my family's ranch. It would have been, I don't know. Probably 2009 or 10. And I had a sorrel horse named Yayo. And Jared Prophet, myself, and I think Mark Jack was with us. And that horse was a really good horse, but there were some buttons on him you didn't push. Mm-hmm. And we were kind of getting towards the end of the day, and we might have been partaking in a few beverages. And I was dared to push one of those buttons, and I forget the bet. We had a bet that I couldn't. It was to kick him up in the shoulder, and see if I could ride, because that horse could buck pretty good. See if I could ride it out of him, I did kick him in the shoulder. I got bucked off and hung up.
Oh,
and
no.
That's the first time I'd ever been hung up, and I got drug. Man, I got drug away. So I don't know how long, but it probably wasn't as far as I think it was. But, you're always taught to roll over on your belly, point your toe. Well, Jared's running along with me trying to get his rope down to catch the horse, and I'm rolling over on my belly, and he's yelling, "Roll over!" So I'd roll over on my back. I was like, "No, this doesn't work." I'd roll back over on my belly, and it was in the panhandle, so thank goodness it wasn't. A few cactus, but not super rocky.
Yeah.
They got that horse roped in my boot finally. I was able to wiggle it out, and it ended up, could have been a lot worse. I had some road rash and whatnot, by all means, but that was probably one of the scariest, because we were out. I don't know. We were pretty good ways from pickup and pretty good ways from a house, and I'd never been hung up like that. That was a pretty icky situation there.
That's pretty terrifying.
I had a horse flip over on me once in the chute when I thought I was going to be a saddle bronc rider and pin me down. And that was an experience. You go from the sunlight and to this, all of a sudden you're in this little dark hole, and there's a big 1,200-pound animal on top
flailing
of you.
around.
Yeah. I came out of that unscratched, thank goodness.
Wow.
Was banged up a little bit. But I don't have any all my incidents don't involve a horse. I broke my face in 16. I broke my femur in 21. 12, I broke my fib. But none of them involve a horse.
Really?
None at all. Anytime I've spent in the hospital, yeah, I don't think any of it involves a horse.
Other stuff. What about, you said both your great-grandfathers were cowboys. Did any stories get passed down to you from them about, not even necessarily wrecks, but just cool stories that those guys saw?
Yeah, not necessarily. So my great-granddad on my dad's side was passed before I really got to know him. My great-grandmother told some, I heard stories about her, and I knew her, for the most part, I knew her pretty well. And she was the epitome of a frontier lady, little bitty. She was probably, I don't know, might have been 5'5", maybe. Probably weighed 100 pounds, dripping wet, but like you did not push her buttons. It's her way or the highway type deal. She lived her the time I knew her. She lived, I guess I should say, my whole lifetime that I knew her, in a house that they built from the ground up. And I've always been always been told it was bought from Sears Roebuck, and they built it on the ground. And they hoisted it up with horses, and then put it all together. And it still stands on our family place.
And this is in the Panhandle.
Yes, sir. Yeah, northeast of Amarillo, probably like 65 miles up on the Canadian River Basin.
So she would have been lived through all that Dust Bowl stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah.
like pretty hard
So her
times.
let me take that wrong. Cammie's parents homesteaded that ranch in a dugout that you can still see where, like, we have a marker where it was. Dugouts, of course, not there, but they homesteaded that in a dugout. And then, like, there used to be, it was called, what was that town called? Alhambra. We still have the sign of the town, I think somewhere. And I don't know if my dad or my aunt has it, but somebody has it. And that was like, there was a post office there, and there was a few neighboring families that had dugouts, and that's like kind of where everybody congregated to, got your mail and that kind of stuff. And then later on, Cammie and name was Tommy, Grand Tommy, Cleo, Tom, Terry. They bought and built that house, and it still stands to this day. It has withstood all the fires we had in 2006, and then the most recent ones would have been, I'm gonna get this wrong. What, in 21, 22 was the big 1,000,000-acre fire? Like it is burnt within 3 feet, but that house still stands to this day. I think someone lives in it that works for my aunt and uncle, maybe. But
I finished not that long ago. I read that book, The Worst Hard Time, that kind of talks about all the Dust Bowl stuff, and I mean, that would have just been a hell of a deal to go through, and that's smack in the center where all that got really bad.
Yeah, and I mean, can you imagine like we don't have any clue what those people went through. Like my kids have no clue what it would mean to go out and milk a cow.
Right.
Like, and we drink. My wife will tell you, like, we drink a pile of milk in our house. But they would, like, we just go to the store and buy it.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah.
You want to go to town, you get in a car.
Right.
There's none of this, hey, like, I've lived in places where, like, you're going to go to the grocery store, like, and you do it once a month.
Yeah.
And you just pile it all in. But, like, where we live now, like, like, oh, you want to go get ice cream? Just jump in the truck.
Right.
Type deal. The conveniences of today, I mean, all in all, have made humans in general soft compared to, I mean, like, so Boots O'Neill and he knew my granddad's brother, Ray, more than my granddad, but they all went to school in Lee Forest. And I've heard Boots tell stories about my great-granddad on my mom's side, which I knew him as Pawpaw Tim, about him, like, him remembering, like, they'd come by the house, like, in a wagon, and they'd be, like, going out to feed in a wagon. Which, in the north, that's still a thing, which people still do a bunch, but down here you don't see it a bunch. And Pawpaw Tim had a horse wreck. Oh, I've heard that story a million times. I should think of it a little better. A horse flipped over with him, and I think broke his hip. And he always walked with a limp after that. And that would have been, my granddad would have been, like, high school. He'd old enough to know the story and tell me. And the way I understood it, like, he always walked with a limp, but, like, he never would not get on a horse. And he had to figure out ways, like, to make that leg work for him, and, like, those kind of stories, I mean, you still hear, like, there's stories for sure that, people get in accidents and they overcome it and stuff. But like just your everyday person, like it's so convenient to like not like, oh, I've got a cough, I'll run to the doctor and get an antibiotic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know that is just the way our mind's been trained now. Like,
Right.
you know, I've got little kiddos, and like they get sick, like we go to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my mom is, you know, I'm a 90 or an 85 model, and even at that point, like growing up in the 90s, it's like, well, let's get you some chicken noodle soup.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get you a wet rag on your head. We might get you some aspirin or some ibuprofen. I don't know if kids take aspirin. They might have back then.
Yeah.
You know, like let's see how you feel in 24 hours, and then maybe we'll call the doctor.
Right.
Where now you don't even have to go to the doctor.
You just hold up your phone. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, we'll go to this pharmacy and get this.
Yep.
You know, and it's just like
Taken care
Yeah.
of.
You know, like I in 16, I got hit with a rock. So I've got in the face. So I've got 6 plates and like 20 something screws in my face. And like it screwed my sinuses up miserably.
Yeah.
When they reconstructed my face, and there's no amount of medicine you can take when the barometric pressure changes or the season changes for me to not be like have allergy problems and congested and hacking stuff up all the time. No amount of medicine you can take.
Yeah.
I've tried everything, and it's just something you deal with. But freaking 50 years ago, that medicine probably wasn't around anyways, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, it's just changing the season. You just deal with it. Like people were just tougher.
Well,
back
you'd
then.
have just had a crushed face, and that was that.
That's true. 150. I mean, yeah, 100%. Like that, they would probably not have been able to put my face back together the way they did, by all means. But it's just, I mean, I'm not going to hate on modern conveniences because I love them.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the kids are in Billings selling horses with their mom and stepdad right now. And like, if Megan and I want to talk to them, we pick up the phone and call them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
There's lots of pluses to it, but I sure feel like my granddads were tough.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't mean like UFC tough. I'm talking about like they were the kind of people that like got up whether they had a broke leg or not and went
Yeah.
to work tough.
Yeah.
And that's a mentality that like I hope that, you know, I can instill in the boys like it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Like there are days that you got to get up and go do your job, which they're 8 and 9. So like if it's pouring down rain, like, hey man, if you don't want to get on your horse, you don't have to.
Right,
Type
yeah.
deal. But like I sure hope one day they look back and they're like, you know, Dad was tough.
Mm-hmm.
They probably won't, but I sure hope they do.
I bet they will. All right. Well, we're getting a little over an hour here now, so I'll try and wrap it up. But there's a couple questions I ask everybody. Think of your favorite movie, TV show, book, and what character do you think best resembles you?
Oh man. You want one from all those?
No,
Or
just
one?
a character
Okay.
and something.
Man, that's hard.
Yeah.
I wish I'd have known that question beforehand. I mean, like the obvious answers are you want to pick like Gus or Monty Walsh, Captain Call. I would like to think I would be some of my favorite. Like Newt's one of my favorite characters from Lonesome Dove. Chet is one of my favorite characters from Monty Walsh, and oh dang it, I'll think of the other one in a minute. But I would feel like I'm a blend in between them and the fact that like they they tend like they weren't scared of the work, and it seemed like for the most part they could always put their nose down and grind and get it done with a smile on their face, and they're always like looking for the good.
Mm-hmm.
But like you weren't gonna push them. Like
Yeah.
they were very easygoing. We see it like in Monty Walsh during the they're in the bunkhouse and they're playing cards, and I forget the guy's character's name, but he walks over and he pops Monty Walsh in the face.
Mm-hmm.
And like the whole movie, like Chet's just even kill, and then it spikes, and he jumps over Monty and like pummels that guy, and they get that big fight. Newt has no quit when him and Jasper are fighting.
Yep.
Even though he gets whipped, really and truly, like physically, he gets whipped.
Yep.
You know, but instead of just accepting that, he stands up and I'm not saying I'm the wittiest person by any means because I'm not, but like, hey, get on your horse. We got cattle to drive. Like, you may have whipped me, but I'm still in this position and I've been put here for a reason.
Yeah.
Type deal. And I have a really bad temper, my wife will tell you, but it takes a lot for me to get there.
Yeah.
But I feel like, and I mean, I could be lying to myself about this all day long. I feel like for the most part, like I look for the good in a situation. I look for the good in a person, which I think can set you back sometimes if you look too hard. Sometimes you just have to say like they're that way and I can't change that.
Yeah.
And whether I read a deal the other day about bringing however it would say, bringing new people, I'm going to screw this up, but bringing new people into your life will always do more for you than the ones you erased. Like bringing that new perspective. Just like Megan and I were talking about earlier, she's like, how do we get a friend group of like people that are like creative and think outside the box? Because in general, like cowboy mentalities, right? Mm-hmm. You think in this box. You ranch, you ride horses, and like this friend group here, like they're all Western based, and they love the Western lifestyle, but like nobody's from the same background. Mm-hmm. I mean, Scott lives in Dallas. You live in Wyoming. Mm-hmm. David lives in Waco. Yeah, he's originally from California. Jerry lives in San Angelo. We've lived all over. Now we live in East Texas. Like, nobody here. I mean, you got Hayden Redwine's coming in from Colorado City. You got Bland Scott coming from Abilene. Then you got, I'm drawing a blank. Trace Munzik coming all the way.
Trace is coming down from Sheridan.
Down, type deal. Like, you just have people from all around. And, like, I feel like I hope, like we say, I keep saying, I hope my kids can say this about me one day, that you can think outside the box. Like, you don't have to be so mindset. And I feel like those characters did that, in the big scheme of things. Like, I mean, you can point it out time and time again in those movies. We could go for another hour about just talking about those two movies by all means. Yeah. But I hope that is the factor one day. I hope at my funeral, people don't say he was a good guy. I want them to either say like he lived a life that he could be proud of and we should be too, or even if they say he was a jerk. I mean, that's going to be one of the two things. They're going to say he lived a really good life and we loved him, or he was nice. Yeah. I mean, that's how it's going to go. There's no way around that.
Right.
But I don't know if that answered that question.
No, I think that's a great answer. All right, last question. Imagine yourself, you're sitting in a cold, dark cell. It's your last day. They're going to hang you at sundown. Guy comes by and you get to pick your last meal and you get to listen to one song. What's the meal and what's the song?
Oh, man. Last meal ever. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say I want the, what is that called? Last meal ever. It comes from the Mai Tai in Amarillo, Texas. And I'm trying to think of what I used to order there. It's mugu gai pan. That's my last meal. It's a bunch of vegetables and some bamboo noodles and chicken, fried rice, and give me 3 egg rolls. That'd be my last meal for sure. It's one of my favorite places in the world to eat. And if I'm going to listen to a song, why eat that? Probably Little Joe the Wrangler by Red Steagle.
That's great.
Yeah, like that. The boys really, really like that song, even though I don't know that they understand it. But like you would think at that point in time, like I mean, that's a sad song for what happened. But like Little Joe the Wrangler was doing what he loved,
right?
And he went out doing what he loved.
Absolutely.
You know? And it's just that song to me, like, just proves the point that you're not promised tomorrow. So like,
yeah,
live
absolutely.
it up. Live it up. I mean, like, 7 hours out here. Like, really and truly, we didn't need to come out here. We needed to stay home with everything we got going on. But like, this is the only time that this group of people will be in Texas, you know, in one spot. So like, it's kind of hard not to come,
right?
You know, and see everybody shake hands, even if it's just even if we could only come for the day.
Yeah.
To me, it's worth the drive.
Yep.
Living in Wyoming and Montana taught me that. Like, 4 or 5 hours, not a big deal.
Right.
Not a big deal. If you really want to be there,
you're gonna drive.
You'll figure it out. Yeah, you'll drive. You're the epitome of that.
Yeah.
Like, you've driven countless miles getting places you wanted to be.
Yep.
You know, I think, well, it wasn't too long ago you stayed. I remember seeing your Snapchats and you were camping at the lake here in Texas.
Yeah.
And like you were there like 4 or 5 days, and it's just like, what are you doing there? Just hanging out,
just living my life.
Just what I want to be. It's where I want to be for the day or two.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, Little Joe the Wrangler and Mugu Gai Pan from the Mai Tai in Amarillo.
That's great. All right. Well, where can folks find you?
I'm on Facebook. We have 2T Ranch and Performance Horses has a business page. We're on Instagram, 2T Ranch. I have a personal page, Tyler Terry, on Facebook. And then I think my Instagram handle is T Squared. So, yeah, that's about Megan kind of runs. My wife takes care of the business side of things as far as the page goes on. She's a lot better about posting and keeping up with that stuff. But we're located in DeKalb, Texas at the moment. Have a few spots open in the barn coming up into March, 1st of April for 2-year-olds coming in to needing a good start to their riding career. And yeah, so that's where she's on our social media checking things almost every day. Probably every day. I just don't realize it.
Yeah.
But yeah, look us up. Throw us a like, I guess.
Yeah.
What that's called. Like it, comment, whatever.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you for sitting down and doing this. This is
Man,
great.
I appreciate it. I won't lie. I've been nervous as hell for the last 45 minutes. When you're like, hey, you want to do a podcast? Like, sure.
Pretty simple.
Meg, it was like, you know you're going to have to, like, talk into a microphone and, like, use your words, right? I was like, yes, I understand that. So hopefully I didn't babble too much.
No, you did great. Well, we'll do this again sometime down the road, I'm sure.
Let's do it up north next time.
All right. Sounds good. All right, we'll talk to you on the next podcast.
All right. Thanks, sir.
Thanks for listening in. Don't forget to head over to dustyvaquerodays.com. You can find festival tickets there. In our store, we have all kinds of different merch. Big thank you to Brendan Scott Green for making the original music for this podcast. Please give us a review. We'd love to hear your feedback and tell your friends. We'll see you next week.